Positive Anime Reviews is a review show that is designed for people who aren't very picky about their anime, like me. Most anime I watch ends up in my 5 out of 5 category. My reviews are for those people who are looking for a reason to watch anime rather than hate on it. I am willing to give any and all anime a chance before stating my opinion. Lastly, my reviews are all my opinion and might and or most likely won't match yours. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. Just be respectful in the comment section. Thank you. And as always, possible spoiler warning ahead. Hey guys, Darth Lord here, back with another positive anime review. Today we will be talking about Sword Art Online alternative, Gale Online. So, first of all, sorry about the lack of uploads yesterday. The AC, for those of you that don't know, my AC died, which is, perfect time to die is in the middle of summer. And we were having it fixed, taken care of. And it ran long yesterday, and then I had some other responsibilities, but I still was hoping to record, but then everything just ran long, as life tends to do, so did not have the time. And then so today the AC people had to come back to get it out to actually get everything done and complete it. So now it's done, and my AC is once again blowing cold air. So it's still ultimately a swamp cooler, and so there's it's not going to do that great of a job even when it's working. But at least now it's working. We got a new one, so hopefully it'll help stem the tide. It'll keep it from being 90 degrees in here like it literally has been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, if nothing else, it'll keep it to 75, 76, which by comparison is like paradise. So anyway, but yeah, so today we are talking about Sword Art Online alternative, Gale Online. So this is a spin-off anime from, of course, the Sword Art Online franchise, but this is not related. It takes place in Gale Online, which was introduced in the second season of Sword Art Online, and so it takes place in there. But otherwise, it follows different characters. It has a different story. It's not related to Kirito and all those events at all. It's mentioned several times, of course, like the Sword Art Online incident is mentioned a few times, but it's not the point of the series. And so it was fun seeing a different spinoff. So anyway, as always, I will be using my little cheat sheet here. So that's what I was doing. I was taking a little bit of a glance. Let's see where we are now. Okay, so when did this anime air? This anime aired in the spring 2018 season. So it is pretty new. It's pretty new, especially by comparison. And so that would be, I guess, not quite, but almost this time last year. It was, actually, what, isn't it September? Oh, I don't know, it's way later in the year than I thought it was. You know how that is, time flies. So I guess it was not at all this time last year. It was over a year ago, so there you go. But anyway, so I believe there is a dub. This anime is I believe there's a dub. I didn't look and I didn't watch it because as always I watch subs, so I have no idea if there's a dub for sure. But I lean towards thinking yes. Don't quote me. Let me just go back to my little cheat sheet here. The source of this one is a light novel, and I have not read it, so, I can't tell you anything about it. But, as always, we'll be starting with the synopsis. It's the perfect way to sum it up, and it's better than listening to me. So, here we go. Clad in desert pink and the size of a mere child, the infamous Pink Devil mercilessly hunts down other players in the firearm-centered world of the virtual reality game Gale Online. But in real life, this feared player killer is not quite who anyone would expect. A shy university student in Tokyo, Karen... Oh my gosh, her last name. I'm not even going to attempt it. Her name is Karen, all right? Karen stands in stark contrast to her in-game avatar. In fact, she happens to stand above everyone else too, much to her dismay. Towering above all the people around her, Karen's insecurities over her height reach the point where she turns to the virtual world for an escape. Starting game after game in hopes of manifesting as a cute short character, she finally obtains her ideal self in the world of Gale Online. Overjoyed by her new persona, she pours her time into the game as Len, gathering her reputation as the legendary player killer. However, when one of Len's targets gets the best of her, she ends up meeting I'm gonna crush this. Pitohui, I think is how you would pronounce it. It's spelled Pitohui is how it's spelt. And it's funny because the first thing most of you are probably going to think when you hear the name, quick interruption from the synopsis, by the way. First thing most of you are going to picture is probably pedo or pedo. It depends on where you live and how you pronounce it. First thing I thought of, but like, just try to put it out of your mind, because otherwise it will distract you the entire anime. So try to put it out of your mind, because it'll, you'll never hear the end of it otherwise. Anyway, a skilled yet eccentric woman. Quickly becoming friends with Karen, Pedo insists, and I just call her Pedo because it's way easier than saying Pedo Hui every time. Pedo insists that Len participates in Squad Jam, a battle royale that pits teams against each other, fighting until only one remains. Thrust into the heated competition, Len must fight with all of her wit and will if she hopes to shoot her way to the top. So there you go. That's the synopsis. Super cool, super cool, premise. That's what I'm looking for. So, quick rant though. Something that and it's not that bad or anything. Something that I want to just put out there. So, I love the Sword Art Online series. Whether it's the main series or this spinoff, they're all great. That being said, a quick tiny little rant that, and it's not that bad, but for me as a gamer as well as a anime person, it's a little bit immersion breaking, and I'll explain why. So in the synopsis, it explains it as well, that so this main character Karen, she's very, very tall in real life, and in the game, so all she wants to do is be short, because especially in Japan, the overall average height is not super tall. So if you're super tall, it's especially, it's not always seen as a good thing, and it's not even that if in Japan in general, because if you are, I've noticed that, especially in women, that if you are way taller than everyone else, it's kind of a confidence breaker, and it can be hard. Now, I get that because my little sister is very, very tall, and so often she kind of struggles with that because she's very, very tall. And when you're the tallest one around, especially when you're on the younger side of things, it seems, it's kind of, I don't know, it makes you stand out, and that's not usually a good thing. And so I get that, especially if you're the tallest one among anyone you know, if it can often lead to trouble. If you're a guy, being tall, not that big a deal, no matter where you live, and not even just Japan, not even where you live. If you're a dude, being super tall usually just makes everyone love you, because dang, look at that dude, he's so tall. So, it's a thing. Regardless, that's not the rant. I don't care about that. I got sidetracked. So my rant is, so the whole point of the main character Karen, of wanting to get into the virtual world, is to escape her insecurities of being super, super tall in real life. So she wants to find a short little avatar to play inside of a virtual game. So eventually she finds one. Now, the part that gets me is why on earth, if there was a gaming system that you could put on your head and be literally have your mind transported to a virtual world where you could do all kinds of crazy things, whether it's in a fantasy setting, in a shooting game, no matter what it was. Why would you not be able to customize your avatar to your choices? Because in this one, it talks about, in the synopsis that even mentioned it, that as she goes from world to world trying to find her perfect avatar, and then as she went in the anime, it shows this scene where it shows it all going down, and it's completely random. You don't have any control of what your avatar looks like. It's you roll dice. Come on, nope, I lost, or whatever. It's like rolling dice, and I can't believe that in a world so advanced that you could be transported to VR so real, it felt like you were there. You could taste food in a VR world and know what it tasted like in real life. If you're to that level of advanced, why on earth could you not make your own avatar? Why is it random? That's so stupid. So from a gaming standpoint, it kind of drove me nuts, because I'm that would never be a thing. They would never take away the choice of customization in a VR games this crazy and realistic. It wouldn't happen. They would give you control over what your avatar looks like, and I can't make myself believe otherwise. So that is something that bothered me a little bit from a gaming perspective, which was this would not be a thing, at all. This would not be a thing. They would not just be well, hopefully you get lucky, stupid, because, that's not a good system for deciding what your character looks like. Because, especially in gaming, it's super important. Cosmetics is super important, despite what big companies would have you believe. Cosmetics is incredibly important. It's the fear of missing out, the fear of not fitting in, or the fear of blending in and not standing out. Cosmetics is super important on representing who you are inside whatever you're doing. Whether it's in a game, in a virtual world, I guess in this case, no matter what it is, like, cosmetics are incredibly important. And so, like, I can't even make myself believe. Sorry, I'm dying. Anyway, I can't even make myself believe for a second that they would, like, remove that choice and so everything was entirely random. Like, that's ridiculous. Anyway, not the point. So side rant that bothered me at the time. So anyway, so moving on to our next section of rating. Rating wise, this anime was not dirty. The only thing in it was there is violence and action, because obviously it's taking place in Gale Online. It's all guns and shooting. So now this anime expanded on like the GGO universe a lot more, which I really liked, because in general, GGO is a really fascinating premise for a VR world. And obviously in the second season of Sword Art Online, it's a much bigger, there's a bigger overarching narrative. That it's not just about being in GGO, like that's just, it's the new area, but we're all focusing on Kirito and the story, right? Well, in this one, it expands much more heavily on GGO, and as a world, it was very, very fascinating and super cool. And so in this one, the gunplay is much more intense and hyped up. They added like an expanded, maybe not even added, but like they expanded on things that were probably more or less in the other game too, but in this one it was more important to flesh it all out. And I totally see that. It doesn't bother me at all. But so this anime does flesh it out. So there is more like violence, like people's legs getting blown off, or getting shot in the head, or taking like one of those photon swords, which is basically a lightsaber. Who were we fooling? Basically taking a photon sword through the eye, stuff like that. So there is some death and violence and things, but it's not like there's blood splurting or anything. Like it's all still like that, the virtual, like the virtual grid that you see, and there is kind of like pseudo blood, because sometimes when they died, like there would be like it would be like a burst of, like, it looked like kind of like data, but like it was like virtual blood. So I don't know, so it didn't like look it, but it was enough that you appreciated like the combat, right? So, but it's still definitely, I would say, a PG-13, because it would be probably too intense for like kids. But if you were probably in your teens, it's probably nothing, it's probably nothing that would rock your world at all. So probably a PG-13. So super clean. It's probably fine. Now, genre should be no surprise. Action, fantasy, game, military, and sci-fi. No surprise there. It's the same thing as like Sword Art Online was, but this one is obviously focused on new people and in GGO instead of being all over the place. So obviously, no surprise there. Now, as far as season length is concerned, this is only 12 episodes, so it is about half the length of the normal seasons for Sword Art Online, but it was completely self-contained. This one, there was no cliffhangers. The story was resolved in this anime. It was resolved. It told the story. There was no loose ends. So there was nothing else to say. So 12 episodes was perfect for it. The pacing was great, and it kept you interested, and you wanted to know what was happening. And so 12 episodes works just fine. Now, as far as the duration, it's exactly what you'd expect at about 23 minutes. So nothing, new about the duration. Now, as far as memory serves, I don't believe there was anything after the credits. So if you are worried about missing anything, don't be. I don't think there was anything. I would check the first few episodes, as always is my policy. Check the first few episodes, but afterwards, if you're about a minute and 30 seconds from the ending of the video and the opening song just started, then trust me, there's nothing afterwards. So, nothing new there. Now, our character list this time around isn't incredibly long. There's a lot of supporting characters, but only a few main characters, and only a few that matter. So, I will, as always, I'll introduce our main characters, the ones that matter, and they'll be the important ones, all right? So, as far as our main characters, of course, our main character is Karen. No, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her last name because it's very long and I don't want to embarrass myself. But her first name is Karen. She is, of course, in-game. She has the little pink-covered avatar, the super short, super adorable main character there. She's wears pink all the time. Even her gun is pink. She's adorable. Now, as far as like personality is concerned, like it's mentioned in the synopsis, but she's super insecure about her height. But otherwise, she's pretty quiet and shy in real life. That in game, she's much more assertive and much more like, she's much more assertive and much more in it and more outspoken and more intense in game, which, no surprise, I feel like that's true even in games that, like in real life. I feel like that if you're playing anything online, I feel like it's much more normal for people to be very different than who they portray in game. I feel like that's super normal. But anyway, but in game, she's much more intense, and it's not that, like, initially her desire isn't necessarily to be the best in the game or anything. Like, her goal is her original goal was just to be adorable. Was honestly, that's what she wanted. She wanted to be small and cute and adorable and not feeling like she stood out. And so then when she reached the point where she got the avatar she wanted, because, a dice roll makes total sense, whatevers. Anyway, when she finally reached that point, like, she spent a lot of her time there, and she made a friend there, and she brought some of her friends from real life into the game. But she more just spent a lot of time, and things ended up developing that got her into what's happening. But it wasn't like when she joined, her goal wasn't to be the best in the world or anything. Like, that's not the reason she was there. And I kind of liked that because it gave it a different spin on, like, look, I'm here, but, like, I'm not here to be the best. It's kind of an anime cliche, and I am not one of those people that is bothered by that type of thing. It didn't bother me here either. It was just surprising, and I enjoyed it. It being like a different, angle for things to be showing up in, and I liked that. But otherwise, there's not too much to say about Karen. Inside the game, her username is Len, and it's all caps, and there's 2 L's in front. But I'm pretty sure it's just pronounced Len. And there's nothing else, just, in case you were, wanted to know. And in case you wanted to know. Anyway, so moving on to our next main character is going to be, in-game, her name is Pidohui. I know I'm probably slaughtering that, and I'm so sorry. But obviously, in-game, Karen, or Len, depending on who you want, in-game or outside of game, calls her pedo, which I did too, because it's much easier, but I know what we're all thinking. Lols, she's a pedo. But calm down, alright? Like, it's a goofy name, but try to ignore it, otherwise you'll never be able to forget it. Anyway, outside of game, who she is a mystery, and that's a big part, and it's a fun reveal for the anime, so no, I'm not going to spoil it. And it was super cool. Now, I called it, by the way. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I did call it. Anyway, regardless, so inside the game, Pedo is, like, just really, really intense. She eats and breathes, GGO. She is one of the best in the game. And she's kind of psychotic, to be honest. After you get to know her, a lot is explained, and there's a lot of plot that holds it all together that will make we'll make it all make sense, and so I don't have to get too into why, for the purposes of this, but she's kind of nuts in the actual anime, that she is really good. Now, as far as her, like, overarching desires is, again, I can't talk too heavily about her because it spoils a large part of the anime, because a large part of the anime revolves around Karen and Pedo, like, talking and developments between them and stuff, and so I can't talk too heavily about her without spoiling a lot. So unfortunately, I'm not going to say too much. She's kind of nuts, all right, but I liked her. So our next main character, who I can talk more about, is Mayu. I think is how it's Miyu. So I think it'd be Mayu. I don't know. Maybe I'll say Miyu. I don't know. Anyway, in game, I forget the name of her character, but outside, her IRL name is Mayu, and Mayu Shinohara. Now, she is kind of, I don't know, she's like the goofy best friend character. Outside of the game, she is like kind of crass, not like overly crass, but she does lean that direction. Like I said, she's the goofy best friend character, but not like too goofy, because it's not like, this wasn't supposed to be like a comedy. It's much like, it leans towards more realistic as far as like you know, people's reactions and stuff. It's not going for like crazy over the top humor, because this isn't supposed to be a comedy anime. But she was on the goofy, funnier side of things. Now, she is Karen's best friend in real life. And she plays, I think it's ALO, so she plays VR games, but she is also pretty nerdy. She's super into VR games. Now, after a certain point in the anime, I think it might be halfway through, maybe, or so, she joins Karen in GGO. She transfers her character over, and she spends the rest of the anime being in, like, she spends the rest of the duration of the anime in the anime. So you get you know, you see her a lot, and she's kind of rash, and she's the goofy best friend. She's, I don't know, supposed to be like the less intense character on the on our little main character roster to help break up the intensity, I suppose. But anyway, but otherwise she was fine. I mean, I'm pretty neutral as far as what I feel about her. But she, inside the game, she's also super short and small, just like Karen is. I think she's blonde. Let me open the picture here. Yeah, she is the blonde character wearing like the army military looking uniform, and she uses dual grenade launchers because, you know, why not? She uses dual grenade launchers in the game. Karen uses a P90 in the game, in case you're wondering. And Pedo uses like a large variety of weapons, so her weapons change a lot, so you'll just have to watch to see. Now, moving on to our last and final main character, we have Goshi, and that's his first name. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his last name. Now, inside the game, I think he goes by M, just the letter M. And so outside the game, he's very different from what he is inside, but inside the game, he's super tall. He's like a bear of a man. He's huge. And he is super, super tall. He is a sniper, and he is a crazy good shot. He's super, super skilled and good in GGO, and he has ties to Pedo, and the anime is heavily what's the word? Like, contingent? Is that the word? Like, it heavily revolves around Pedo and, M and, like, lots of relationships, so I can't go too deeply into how anyone's related because it spoils things, and I'm not going to. But yeah, so inside the game, he's like super, like, kind of quiet and business-like, and he's like he's really intense, just like a lot of characters in this anime are. He's really intense. Now, once he develops, you learn more about him. Your opinion of him will probably change from whatever you assumed of him at first. I know mine did. But he was likable. So inside the game, like I said, he's like a absolute giant. He wears more like army green, more or less, and he has like a hat that has like kind of like camouflage, kind of like a ghillie suit, but not really. And like I said, he uses a sniper inside the game. He's super quiet. Now, once more develops around him, like I said, your opinions of him might change. Mine did. But otherwise, he was pretty likable, if not very quiet. So, moving on to favorite / most hated characters. My favorite character is actually Pedo. Once you learn more about her, I really liked her, and honestly, I like insane characters. So, once you learn more and you learn that she was kind of off her rocker, then the more I liked her. And aesthetically, Pedo in game, she I think it's purple, but colorblind. But she's kind of the purple-haired, purple long-haired character. She wears like a one piece, like a jumpsuit, and it's a very slimming jumpsuit. And she uses a large variety of weapons. Now, aesthetically, it's no surprise because if you guys have been watching my reviews a long time, and a lot of characters that end up being favorites of mine tend to have a very similar aesthetic. They tend to be like the purple-haired character, like the intense character, especially if they're hiding an insane, crazy side of things. If they purple, long hair, ponytail. Okay, it's super my aesthetic. So if it's no surprise, Pedo's my favorite character, and everyone's like, yep, no surprise there. Now, most hated characters, there is not really any character in this anime that I hated. I didn't hate anyone, because all the characters are likable, and again, this anime, it's not a life or death thing in this one. And so, there is not really any villains. The things happen, so there's not really any villains, and it gets explained, so I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but suffice it to say that there's not really any villains in this one, so there's no one that they try and turn it so that you hate them. At least I didn't think so, and I didn't really hate anybody. So moving on to animation and music. Animation-wise, this anime did a fantastic job. It was really well animated, much like SAO was. It's not like Alicization good, because it's not like, you know, dialed to 11, but it's definitely on par with seasons 1 and 2 of Sword Art Online, and I feel like in some ways it was even better because the gunplay was super cool, and the audio for the guns was really good as well. You felt it when the guns were firing, and it was really cool. And the animation was on point because the gunplay was so much more intense, and there was a lot more like I don't know, quote unquote violence, like people's arms getting blown off. But like I said, there's no blood and there's no pain, so it's not like super graphic or like, you know, in like super intense or scarring or anything, because there was no blood. So, but the animation was on point because a lot of the gunplay and the battles felt intense to you too, and it did a great job. So other than that, there's not too much to say about the anime. So before we get to final rating and recommendation, well, I don't know, I guess we could do it afterwards. Anyway, so moving on to final rating and recommendation, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Very good. This anime made no mistakes worth noting and is definitely worth a buy. So, you know, there's this anime didn't do anything wrong. And in all honesty, you know, I liked it. It was very not cliche, if that makes any sense. Because, and again, I'm not the type of person that minds cliche, but I feel like when an anime goes out of their way to make it feel very unique and different and surprising, it should be pointed out, because this anime, there were turns, and like, as the anime was developing, it was in a very different direction than one might expect, because you're used to having this is the hero, this is the villain, and they're gonna fight each other, and the good guy's gonna win, and that's how it's probably gonna be. Or in a much more unlikely scenario, the villain's gonna win, and that's how it'll be. But it's like, it's like 80-20 on the split there. But this anime didn't really have any villains. All the characters were characters that you either liked or were usually pretty much neutral about. Everyone was likable. Everyone got a great ending. Like, it was just happily ever afters all around. There was no, like, real life death or anything. It was really good. Everyone got a happily ever after, but it didn't feel like in a cliche type of way. The premise was very unique and different, and I liked how the plot tied in everything together. The battles were really great, and it was very different from what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it felt very different. I think something important that I need to point out as well is that if you're worried that this anime is using the Sword Art Online, like, writing the name, because they'll be like, hey, Sword Art Online's super popular, let's put this title on our anime so it'll be really good. If you're worried about that, don't be. I was a little worried about that. The thought had occurred to me as well, but after I watched it, this anime was well made. It was well put together. It was just really great. And so if you're worried that they were just using the name to get popular, I would say don't be, because this anime definitely showed a lot of love went into it to make it. And it was fantastic. So I liked that it felt different, and it wasn't just writing the name to be good, because it felt like it was still in the Sword Art Online universe, so to speak, without just trying to copy what the other seasons are doing. And I really liked it. So it was a fantastic spin-off show, and I absolutely recommend it. Anyway, other than that, though, that's going to call it for this one, but kind of more of a short and sweet comparatively. We're at like, 28 minutes or so, but some of my reviews go longer than that, but this one felt very concise, and it felt very on point, and I am much more happy with how it turned out. Anyway, regardless, though, that's pretty much all for this one. So after this, I will be recording part 7 of our Fallout 4 playthrough, which I think it's been like, 3 or 4 days since we recorded Fallout 4, so it's been way too long, and I'm happy to be hopping back on that train. And as far as I know, uploads tomorrow should be normal, as far as I know. And other than that, I think that's it. So that's going to call for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and we will talk to you guys later.